Welcome. In our channel, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from and share your thoughts with me. I'm super curious. The wedding venue fell silent as Nathan stepped forward, holding Emily close. In a shocking declaration, he announced that Emily was the one he truly loved, not me. The person he was supposed to marry today was Emily. Gasps echoed through the crowd as all eyes turned to me, waiting for a reaction. But I didn't lash out or make a scene. Instead, I walked toward him with grace, stopping just before him. I offered a polite curtsy and said, "Nathan, my feelings for you end here. Congratulations on your wedding." This time I vowed I wouldn't let blind love destroy my life and family again. A collective murmur spread through the crowd, their gazes shifting toward me with unreadable expressions. I had become the undeniable focus of the entire wedding. Ever since I met Emily, Nathan claimed, he finally understood what love truly was. She had taught him so much, and his heart belonged only to her. He pleaded with everyone to let them be together. Our gazes locked, filled with emotion, making me seem like some wicked villain trying to tear apart a destined couple. Encouraged by Nathan's support, Emily found her voice, pleading with me. "Sophia, Nathan doesn't love you. Why must you force something that isn't meant to be? A forced relationship will never bring happiness. Marrying someone who doesn't love you won't make you happy. Nathan and I are truly in love. Please let us be together." I looked at the two of them standing on the stage, tightly embracing each other, and smiled faintly. Since I was 10 years old, I had known that I would marry Nathan. To stand by his side, I had worked tirelessly, studying every skill imaginable. While other girls played with dolls, I learned to appraise fine goods. While others compared pretty dresses, I memorized the family histories of every noble household in the city. While my peers worried about final exams, I mastered social etiquette. All of it was for the sole purpose of becoming Nathan's perfect wife. I believed the woman standing beside Nathan could never be just a pretty ornament. Perhaps my childhood obsession had twisted my perception. I had convinced myself that marrying Nathan and becoming the matriarch of his family was my only goal. At some point, I could no longer distinguish whether it was love or mere possession. But in my past life, despite all my efforts, Nathan had turned my devotion into the very weapon that destroyed me. This time, I refused to fall into the Carter family's trap again. Lifting the hem of my custom-made wedding dress, I took deliberate steps toward the stage. The bodyguards followed closely, tense, as if prepared to subdue me at any moment. Yet I simply stopped 3 meters away from Nathan, offered a poised curtsy and repeated, "Nathan, my feelings for you end here. Congratulations on your wedding." Nathan visibly froze on stage. He had expected resistance, but I had agreed so readily. The next second, Mr. Carter stormed onto the stage, raising his hand to slap Emily. But Nathan intercepted him at the last moment. Mr. Carter, unconcerned with appearances, lashed out at Nathan. "You ungrateful disgrace, throwing away a perfect match from a prestigious family just to marry some unknown nobody. You're humiliating the Carter family. What does she even have besides a frail, pitiful act to win your sympathy?" Emily's face turned crimson with embarrassment, but Nathan held her protectively, as if she were the most precious treasure. "Sophia," he declared, "she is everything I need, and all she has is me. You and I grew up together. If there was ever a spark, it would have happened long ago. I never liked you. So why do you all keep forcing this? A marriage without love will never bring happiness. I want the whole world to know Emily is the only one I love. I just want to give her the best of everything." His impassioned declaration earned murmured laughter from some of the guests. Marriage among the wealthy was never this simple. Nathan then turned his focus to me. "You don't love me either, do you? A marriage like ours would never be happy." I didn't respond. Instead, I silently removed the engagement ring from my finger, ready to return it to him. Only then did I notice that Emily was already wearing a dazzling diamond ring on her own hand. I let out a quiet, amused sigh, took the hand of the bodyguard beside me, and placed the ring in his palm, returning it to its rightful owner. Mr. Carter grabbed my hand, attempting to persuade me to stay, but my father swiftly intervened, shoving his hand aside. "Since the Carter family has already made their choice, we won't impose any further," he said, taking my hand and leading me away. In anger, because of a casual joke from the elders, I had loved Nathan for 18 years. Even when my so-called friends mocked me for chasing after him, I simply laughed it off. No matter what they said, it wouldn't change the fact that I was going to marry into the Carter family. But when I finally won that position, I realized how foolish I had been. I had thrown myself straight into an abyss. Even my own parents had lost faith in that marriage. This time I wouldn't let myself be trapped again. I had no reason to step into the Carter family's den of wolves. The moment we stepped out of the wedding venue, my father was livid. The entire ride home he fumed non-stop. That little punk Nathan had the audacity to humiliate my daughter like this. Unbelievable. Tomorrow, I'm calling my secretary to cut off all business ties with the Carter family. If it weren't for my respect for old Mr. Carter, I wouldn't have even considered letting my daughter marry that piece of trash. Do you know how many outstanding men have come asking for Sophia's hand? And yet that brat dares to treat her like this? No, I won't let this slide. I need to find someone to teach that ungrateful punk a lesson. My mother sat beside him trying to calm him down, but it wasn't working. Honestly, if someone handed my father a machine gun right then, I was convinced he'd storm the Carter estate and tear them all apart. The thought made me chuckle. The moment I laughed, my father finally stopped his angry rant, turning to me with a puzzled expression. "Sophia, are you in shock?" I reached out and tightly grasped both of my parents' hands. They weren't cold anymore. For a moment, I felt a wave of emotion, and my eyes welled up with tears. My father assumed I was heartbroken and immediately told the driver to turn around, prepared to march back and confront Nathan. I quickly stopped him. "Dad, even if Nathan hadn't put on this whole show today, I would have broken off the engagement with the Carter family myself." My father opened his mouth to ask why but hesitated, swallowing his curiosity, afraid of upsetting me further. I turned my gaze to the passing scenery outside the car window, then looked back at my parents with unwavering seriousness. "At home, you both cherish me like a princess, but in the Carter family, I would have been nothing more than a pawn to strengthen their legacy, a tool to bear children." My parents stared at me in shock, not fully understanding what I meant. In my past life, Nathan had also brought Emily to ruin my wedding, but I had been so blinded by obsession that I refused to let go. I caused an absolute spectacle, throwing a tantrum in front of all the guests. My wedding dress was torn, wine glasses were shattered, and the beautifully arranged venue was left in ruins. In the end, under pressure from all sides, Nathan grudgingly married me, resenting me every step of the way. But that was the beginning of my nightmare. Nathan never forgave me for taking Emily's place. He treated me with cold indifference. To get back at me, he deliberately orchestrated a hostile takeover of my family's company. My mother-in-law blamed me for failing to win over my husband's heart, and her complaints became relentless. "You've been married into the Carter family for so long, and you still haven't given us a child," she would sneer at me. I had no response. I could only smile bitterly. Nathan's disdain for me spread throughout the entire Carter household, turning every day into a battle for survival. In the end, my family's company was completely swallowed up. My parents, devastated and left with nothing, took their own lives. I was left clinging to whatever scraps of dignity I had, forced to rely on the very people who had destroyed me. But what truly shattered me was when Nathan and Emily had a child together. I looked at my parents with unwavering determination. That life had been a living hell, an endless cycle of suffering. The Carter family was nothing but a gilded cage, one that stripped me of my identity and happiness. If I, who had been raised as their future daughter-in-law, had suffered so much, then Emily, who was forcing her way in, would face her own fate. Perhaps, with Nathan protecting her, things would be different for her. But none of that had anything to do with me anymore. After hearing everything I said, my parents fell into deep thought, Their brows furrowed as they processed my words. After a long silence, my father looked at me seriously. "My precious girl, what do you want to do next?" "I'm going to study abroad," I said without hesitation, then leaned into my mother's embrace with a playful pout. After all, the future of our family's legacy is in my hands. I have to make it stronger than ever. The once gloomy atmosphere instantly shifted as my father burst into laughter. "That's my girl. That's my Sophia." Without hesitation, my father made the arrangements. Very soon, my family had everything set for my departure. On the day I left, I didn't tell anyone. Snow fell heavily from the sky, just like that New Year's Eve years ago. I remembered how Nathan had arrogantly grabbed my hand in front of our families, boldly declaring, "This is my wife," causing the elders to burst into laughter. But in the end, it was nothing more than a farce. I casually scrolled through my phone only to see a news headline: "Cinderella and her prince, a love story destined to be." I chuckled lightly, turned off my phone, picked up my boarding pass and left. 3 years later, I returned home after completing my studies. The company was officially being handed over to me. To celebrate my return, my social circle arranged a grand welcome party. Over the years, I had developed a taste for fine wine, so my best friend Lily chose an upscale bar for the gathering. However, the moment I arrived, I spotted Nathan sitting in a corner. He saw me too. Our eyes met, and his brows furrowed slightly. "Why was he here?" Lily shrugged. "You know how small our circle is. The moment news spread that you were back, it didn't take long for it to reach the Carter family." He nodded. It was true. Our social circle was so tightly knit that even the smallest movement became public knowledge within minutes, especially when my parents were so fond of talking about me. I glanced in Nathan's direction. He looked distant and unapproachable. "Emily didn't come with him?" I asked. Lily leaned in and whispered in my ear, "Don't even mention her. She's practically the biggest joke in our entire circle now. Anyone associated with her is bound to suffer. Nobody wants to be anywhere near her." I frowned slightly, but Lily didn't elaborate further. Instead, she playfully pushed me toward the crowd. "Tonight, no one gets to be reserved as the guest of honor. You have a responsibility to enjoy yourself." At her words, the others eagerly joined in, raising their glasses to toast me. I smiled and accepted each one gracefully. For the past 3 years, I had thrown myself completely into my studies, devouring knowledge with an intensity that felt like having 8 brains working at once. Now that I was finally back, I figured I deserved to let loose a little. But just as I was about to take another sip of my drink, Nathan suddenly snatched the glass from my hand. "You're not good with alcohol. Don't drink so much," he said, his tone laced with concern. I didn't appreciate his presumption. I simply took the glass back. Nathan tried to grab it from me again, but I dodged effortlessly, offering him a smile. "Mr. Carter, please don't break the rules. I really dislike men who make decisions for me." He was visibly taken aback by my response, clearly not expecting this version of me. Social gatherings like these had become second nature to me now. I handled them with ease. I didn't need his sympathy, nor did I need a prince to protect me. I turned and continued my conversation with the air of a seasoned real estate tycoon, raising my glass to toast with a business associate. Meanwhile, Nathan followed half a step behind me, staying close, but I didn't spare him another glance. Suddenly, someone in the crowd gasped, "Look at the fireworks!" I turned my head and saw a dazzling display lighting up the night sky. Red, white, and gold colors bursting in a mesmerizing dance. Nathan moved beside me, holding his glass of wine, and leaned in slightly. His voice was low in my ear. "Do you like them?" I said nothing. He smiled faintly. "I once promised to give you a grand fireworks display, but you were abroad all these years. I never got the chance." I gazed at the vibrant explosions outside the window. Nathan had said that once, but childhood promises were nothing more than words lost to time. I no longer needed them. Snapping back to reality, I lifted my glass and lightly clinked it against his. smiling politely. "Thank you for the gift, Mr. Carter." My formal response made him pause. He studied me for a long moment before murmuring, "You've changed." I chuckled softly. "You're mistaken, Mr. Carter. As you said, that was all in the past. People grow, don't they?" With that, I gracefully melted back into the crowd, effortlessly engaging in conversation. This gathering was meant for networking and expanding my market connections. I wasn't about to waste such a golden opportunity. Outside, the fireworks continued for nearly half an hour before finally fading into the night. As the party came to an end, people slowly trickled out of the bar, chatting amongst themselves. But as soon as we stepped into the lobby, I saw someone who had clearly been waiting for a long time. Emily. The moment she spotted us, she quickly approached with a bright, eager smile. "Hello, everyone." The crowd merely acknowledged her with polite nods, nothing more. But Emily didn't seem to mind. Emily turned to Nathan with a gentle smile. "I just stopped by your office to bring you dinner. Your secretary said you had a gathering tonight, and since I happened to be passing by, I thought I'd come pick you up." The moment she finished speaking, someone in the crowd chuckled sarcastically. "Looks like Nathan is really lucky. Even his soup has to be personally delivered by Mrs. Carter. We can't help but envy him." I was surprised by how ruthlessly he scolded her. Emily quickly put on her usual pitiful expression. "Your stomach isn't in good condition and you've been drinking. I was worried about you, so I brought you some freshly made soup. Please drink it while it's still warm." In the past, Nathan would have fallen for this act instantly. But now, he only glanced at her indifferently, his patience clearly worn thin. Wasn't this the woman he had fought so hard to marry? It had only been 3 years, and yet. Lily scoffed beside me, her voice dripping with sarcasm. I gave her a questioning look, and she leaned in to whisper, "Nathan and Emily used to be inseparable. He took her everywhere, as if he wanted to announce to the whole world that she was the love of his life. But do you know what they say about people who are beyond saving?" She let out a soft chuckle before continuing. 2 years ago, at a charity gala for animal conservation, she showed up wearing real fur. The organizers were so furious that they kicked her out on the spot. Then, during the Carter family's annual company banquet, her impoverished relatives barged in, demanding Nathan give them jobs. His parents were so enraged that they publicly humiliated Emily, calling her a walking disaster, and kicked both of them out of the family estate. Nathan, who values his reputation more than anything, must have felt like she was slapping him in the face over and over again. No wonder he looks like this now. I listened to Lily's animated storytelling without any particular reaction. Indeed, Nathan was a man who cared deeply about his image. Everything Emily had done was a direct insult to his pride. It wasn't surprising that their relationship had soured. Before Lily could finish, Emily suddenly stepped around Nathan and walked up to me. Her expression was hostile as she sneered. "Miss Jane, I heard you just returned from abroad. What a coincidence to run into you here." I met her gaze steadily. Though she was dressed head to toe in luxury brands, her outfit screamed desperation, as if she was trying to wear her wealth like a badge of honor. Had Nathan not hired a stylist for her? I found it amusing but ultimately unimportant. I gave her a polite smile, intending to walk away without engaging further. But before I could take another step, Emily suddenly slapped me across the face. Froze in place. The entire room fell into stunned silence. Lily immediately stepped in front of me protectively. Nathan stormed forward in an instant and shoved Emily aside. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Emily's innocent facade shattered as she glared at me with fury. "If it weren't for her, would we have ended up like this? Everyone says she's your first love, the woman you've never been able to forget. She left the country, so why did she have to come back? Is she trying to ruin our marriage? Why should I be polite to a home wrecker? Can't find a man of your own, so you have to seduce someone else's? And don't think I don't know. Those fireworks tonight were for her, weren't they?" Before she could say another word, Nathan slapped her across the face. Emily clutched her cheek in shock. You actually hit me over her? Do you even remember who your wife is? Nathan raised his hand again, clearly furious. But I caught his wrist before he could strike her a second time. He looked at me in confusion, but I ignored him. My gaze was fixed on Emily, who had collapsed onto the floor and was now hysterical. If I remember correctly, you were the one who dragged my groom away from my wedding 3 years ago, I said, my voice calm but cutting. Don't assume that everyone is like you, eager to steal what belongs to others. Then I turned slightly, casting Nathan a cold glance before looking back at Emily. Besides, I have no interest in second-hand goods. My tone was crisp and deliberate. But if you ever slander me again, I'll make sure you can't stay in this city. With that, I gave Lily a subtle signal. Almost instantly, someone stepped forward and restrained Emily. I walked up and slapped her twice, the crisp sound echoing through the lobby. Emily had no chance to retaliate. She could only glare at me with hatred, her face flushed with humiliation. I adjusted my sleeve and turned to Nathan. Control your dog next time. It won't just be 2 slaps. The next morning, gossip about the incident exploded across every major social media platform. The scandal had officially made the headlines. The very first day I returned home, I became the center of public attention. But unfortunately, it was all for the wrong reasons. The courageous Mrs. Carter slaps the mistress to defend her marriage. Cinderella's fairy tale crumbles. The Carter heir falls for another woman. Was Cinderella's unhappiness after marriage caused by the mistress? I didn't need to think twice to know exactly who was behind these headlines. My father was so furious that he smashed an antique vase I had bought for his office. This is outrageous, he roared. Just as I was about to calm him down, my phone rang. It was Nathan. Sophia, my mother would like to invite you to our home for dinner. She wants to personally apologize to you. I was silent for a few seconds before finally agreeing. The Carter family was still one of the most powerful in this city. I couldn't avoid them forever, especially in business, where our paths would inevitably cross. Soon after, under the pressure my father exerted, the defamatory news about me vanished from the internet as if it had never existed. I knew that apart from my family's influence, the Carter family had also played a role in making it disappear. That evening, as I was heading to the underground parking lot after work, I heard a car honk. Turning around, I was surprised to see Nathan waiting in his car. I was taken aback. In the past, no matter how much I pouted or acted coy, he never once came to pick me up. He would always scoff and say, "You're not disabled. You can drive yourself. Why should I pick you up?" Yet now, after we had gone our separate ways, he was suddenly making an effort. I didn't overthink it. Since he was offering a ride, I might as well take advantage of the convenience. However, the moment I stepped into the Carter home, I realized something was off. The room was packed with people. It was a full-fledged family gathering. As an outsider, it felt completely inappropriate for me to be here. Just as I was about to find an excuse to leave, Nathan's mother warmly took my hand. "Sophia, you're here. You've become even more beautiful." She beamed. "I heard you've officially taken over the Jane family business. What a blessing for your parents to have such a capable daughter." She then led me to sit among the elders. I wonder which lucky man will be fortunate enough to marry such an outstanding young woman. The relatives joined in, showering me with praise. Meanwhile, Emily's situation was the complete opposite of mine. Nathan's mother beckoned, and Emily quickly trotted over, despite the clear reluctance on her face. With a forced smile, she respectfully poured me a cup of tea, her demeanor eerily similar to that of a housemaid. But no matter how much she humbled herself, it still didn't earn her Nathan's mother's approval. The scene was strangely familiar. In my past life, after being married to Nathan for years without bearing a child, his mother had grown increasingly impatient with me. Eventually, her attitude turned cold and harsh. I, too, had been forced to serve tea and endure countless humiliations. This was simply how the Carter family operated. Anyone who was deemed useless would be relegated to nothing more than a servant. Nathan's mother gently squeezed my hand. Sophia, you've been wronged by all that nonsense in the media. Then her voice turned sharp as she snapped at Emily. Look at what we've done. Apologize to Sophia. Right now. Emily's face twisted with anger and humiliation, but she bit her lip and forced herself to approach me. With trembling hands, she set down the teacup and looked directly at Nathan's mother. Mother, I was wrong. I'm sorry for what happened at the bar. Sophia is a respectable lady, and I was out of line. Nathan's mother nodded approvingly before turning to me with a calculating smile. See, Sophia. Even Emily recognizes her mistake. Family harmony is what matters most. You and Nathan were meant to be together. This whole misunderstanding has gone on long enough. The room fell silent as every eye turned to me, waiting for my response. I could see the hope flickering in Nathan's eyes, the way he held his breath anticipating my answer. Even Emily looked up with a mixture of fear and resignation. I took a slow sip of tea, savoring the moment before setting the cup down with deliberate precision. Mrs. Carter, I appreciate your concern for family harmony. But I think you're missing a crucial detail. What detail is that, dear? She asked, her smile growing strained. I stood up gracefully, smoothing my dress. Nathan and I have both moved on. We've built successful lives independently. The past is exactly where it should remain, in the past. Trying to recreate old fairy tales rarely ends well. Just look at Emily's situation. Emily's face flushed crimson, but before she could respond, I continued. Besides, I've learned that true happiness doesn't come from marrying into someone else's legacy. It comes from building your own empire, your own family, your own story. Nathan's mother's expression darkened. But you two belong together. Everyone knows. Everyone knew Emily and Nathan belonged together too, I interrupted calmly. Look how that turned out. Perhaps it's time to stop living in the past and let people write their own chapters. With that, I turned to Nathan. Thank you for the ride tonight, but I think it's time I drove myself home. Some journeys are meant to be taken alone. As I walked toward the door, I could hear the murmurs starting behind me, whispers about stubborn women and missed opportunities. But for the first time in my life, I didn't care what they thought. The cool night air hit my face as I stepped outside, and I couldn't help but smile. 3 years ago, I had walked away from a wedding that would have destroyed me. Tonight, I had walked away from a reunion that would have trapped me again. My phone buzzed with a text from Lily. How did it go? Need backup. I typed back. No backup needed. I've already won. As I drove home under the starlit sky, I realized that the best revenge wasn't getting Nathan back. It was becoming so successful, so fulfilled, that he would spend the rest of his life wondering what he had lost. And unlike Emily, I wouldn't need anyone's permission to write my own happily ever after. The city lights blurred past my windshield as I headed toward my future, one that I would build entirely on my own terms.